In the 1500s, maps appeared with coastlines and inland features that most people believe could not be charted until airplanes. Yet the Oronce Fine 1531 and the Mercator 1569 plates show Antarctica and distant cities with an accuracy that today's experts cannot explain. This is impossible by the accepted timeline. Mainstream history insists these were sailors' guesses. But if humanity really walked, not flew, how did surveyors see what only the sky reveals? The accepted story falls apart under analysis, and what those maps expose about lost airports from Tartaria will redefine the limits of human history. Oronce Fine's world map, published in 1531, sits today in the archives of the Bibliothèque Nationale de France under the reference Res G DD 2987. This woodcut, measuring just over half a meter across, carries the official stamp of the Bibliothèque Nationale de France and a long custodial record, confirming its journey through centuries of collectors and royal libraries before reaching its current home. The map's double cordiform, or heart-shaped projection, is not a flourish of imagination, but a calculated application of 16th century geometry, inspired by the work of Johannes Werner and the ancient formulas of Ptolemy. Fine, a mathematician and astronomer by trade, described his methods in notes and treatises. He used astronomical clocks, eclipse calculations for longitude, and traveller accounts to fill the gaps left by incomplete explorations. The southern hemisphere of the map displays an immense landmass labelled Terra Australis, drawn with rivers, mountains, and coastal inlets that appear to echo the modern outline of Antarctica. Fine's own annotations admit this continent was recently discovered, but not yet completely explored, a nod to the limits of his sources. Unlike later maps by Gerardus Mercator, Fine's vision is not based on direct observation or any record of aerial survey. Instead, it compiles rumours, portolan charts, and the mathematical desire for symmetry on a globe. The cordiform projection itself distorts the continents in specific, predictable ways, exaggerating bulges and compressing poles. Yet, it was celebrated in its time for representing the Earth's curvature with a precision unmatched by earlier charts. Every visible detail on the plate, from the speculative coastlines to the imagined river valleys, bears the marks of woodcutting tools and the conventions of Renaissance cartography. The archival stamp and plate number confirm the document's authenticity, grounding any further analysis in a source that has survived the scrutiny of generations. The boundaries of what Fine could have known are set by the mathematical instruments and navigational reports available to him, not by any evidence of flight. Yet the uncanny resemblance between some features of Terra Australis and today's Antarctic coastlines continues to puzzle both skeptics and believers. The map stands as a verified artifact, its origins and projection methods transparent, awaiting the next layer of investigation. Gerardus Mercator's 1569 world map, catalogued today as G3200C T001430 at the Library of Congress, stretches nearly 2 meters wide and introduces a projection that would shape navigation for centuries. Unlike the cordiform geometry of Fine, Mercator's grid preserves angles, allowing sailors to plot straight lines across curved oceans. But the southern expanse, Terra Australis, remains. Its coastlines, drawn more than 250 years before Antarctica's official discovery, trace a shape that, when digitally overlaid on modern satellite imagery, refuses to disappear into mere fantasy. Researchers using high-resolution scans from the Library of Congress have run direct alignment tests. The Antarctic outline on Mercator's plate deviates by less than 5% in several key segments from the satellite-mapped coast, even as other sections drift wildly. This is not a uniform match. It is a patchwork of uncanny fits and speculative stretches, but the precision in places is enough to stop even the most skeptical listener. At the 6-minute 32-second mark, the overlay morphs seamlessly, inviting a double take. Is this the product of ancient sea tales and mathematical guesswork? Or does it suggest access to a vantage point high above the clouds? Mainstream historians argue for coincidence and the power of projection, how a clever grid can conjure order from chaos. Yet the Library of Congress scan, when measured point by point, holds up to scrutiny in ways that challenge easy dismissal. The question lingers: how did a 16th century craftsman, working from second-hand reports, manage to echo the frozen rim of a continent unseen by his peers? The Mercator overlay does not just corroborate the fine anomaly, it compounds it, stacking one authoritative plate atop another in a way that demands a closer look at what might have stood on the ground. The search for terrestrial structures, physical evidence that could anchor these cartographic mysteries, now becomes unavoidable. Palma Nova, founded in 1593 by the Venetian Republic, stands as a near-perfect 9-pointed star etched into the plains of Friuli. Its blueprint stretches outward with mathematical precision, each bastion set at a 60-degree angle, forming a radial symmetry that is unmistakable from above. The walls, less than 7 meters high, encircle a vast open center, their low profile at odds with the towering ramparts expected of a fortress meant to resist siege. Venetian records describe the city's purpose as defensive, yet the geometry tells a more enigmatic story. The bastions radiate like spokes from a hub, each angle calculated to the minute, each curtain wall aligned with the next in a seamless circuit. Aerial overlays using modern drone imagery reveal an uncanny match between the original plans and the present-day footprint. No warping, no drift, only the crisp outlines of a design that seems optimized for something beyond cannon fire. The broad avenues, fanning out from the central piazza, mirror the branching taxiways of a contemporary airport, allowing for the efficient movement of people or, as some propose, vehicles far larger than horse-drawn carts. Surface analysis highlights the smoothness of the parade grounds and the uniformity of the approach roads, as if engineered for regular heavy traffic rather than the chaos of battle. Dr. Jean-Yves Narien, a specialist in Renaissance fortifications, notes that the symmetry and scale of Palma Nova are extraordinary, even by the standards of its time. The city's plan achieves a level of geometric harmony that is rare among military works. Yet the walls themselves, never rising above 7 meters, offer little deterrence to determined attackers. Instead, the emphasis falls on the layout's efficiency. Bastions as nodes, avenues as arteries, the whole structure functioning as a kind of logistical hub. The forensic evidence, measured in angles and distances, invites a new interpretation. Palma Nova as a prototype terminal, its star geometry serving a purpose that mainstream history has yet to fully explain. Bourtange was built in 1593 on the marshy borderlands of the Netherlands, and it stands just 3 meters above sea level. Its star-shaped plan cuts a precise silhouette into the flat countryside, surrounded by water channels that reflect the sky. Official Dutch engineering documents record its purpose as a defensive outpost, yet the site's location, far from any commanding heights or major trade routes, raises questions about its strategic value. The fort ledgers from the late 17th century list vast quantities of brick, sand, and timber, but little in the way of heavy artillery or siege equipment. Instead, the records emphasize paving stone, drainage, and the maintenance of open, level grounds inside the bastions. Across the Rhine, Neuf-Brisach was laid out by Vauban in 1698, with a geometry so regular that every angle and avenue aligns to a master grid. French military ledgers from the Service Historique de la Défense reveal that over 70% of construction materials were paving stone, far more than would be required for simple foot traffic or the movement of cannon. The fort's central square, paved edge to edge, could accommodate the assembly of hundreds of people, or, as some suggest, the landing and servicing of large vehicles. The bastion walls, though angular and mathematically precise, never rise to the imposing heights seen in medieval castles. Instead, their low, sloped faces seem optimized for something other than resisting siege, perhaps for guiding or grounding large objects from above. The recurrence of these features, star geometry, abundant paving, and flat open interiors, appears in fortifications as distant as Bourtange and Neuf-Brisach. These are not isolated anomalies, but a repeating pattern across regions and centuries. The logistics implied by such uniformity point to a system designed for regular, high-volume movement, one that mainstream military explanations do not fully account for. Each ledger entry and survey map hints at a broader network, one built for the arrival and departure of something far grander than the armies of their day. In the archives of Ulm Minster, a ledger dated 1890 lists a single entry that has puzzled engineers and historians alike. 480 kilograms of copper ordered and delivered for the fabrication of a massive orb atop the cathedral spire. The invoice, written in the hand of a local foundry clerk, details the quantity and purity of the metal, the labor hours for shaping and installation, and the payment authorized by the cathedral chapter. Nowhere in the line items is there mention of decorative intent or symbolic purpose, only the technical requirements for mounting a conductive sphere high above the city. Dr. Wilhelm Rehm, a specialist in late Gothic metalwork, has examined the original documents and notes that the copper orb's function extended beyond mere ornamentation. In his words, the design specifications call for continuous electrical continuity from the orb down the spire's iron core, a detail that would be unnecessary for simple weather protection or religious symbolism. The records show that the orb was installed using a series of brass collars and insulated joints, with maintenance instructions referencing periodic checks for corrosion and conductivity. The 1890 ledger, stamped and signed by the cathedral's master builder, stands as physical evidence that the spire was equipped with fittings capable of channeling atmospheric electricity. The sheer mass of copper, nearly half a ton, suggests a technical application that exceeds the needs of lightning protection. These archival details invite a reconsideration of what roles these towering structures may have played and whether their true function has been quietly recorded in the ledgers all along. Cologne Cathedral's western facade rises with a symmetry that seems engineered for more than worship. The twin spires, completed in the late 19th century, were fitted with iron cores and topped by metal finials. Their blueprints were revised in 1845 to replace stone with iron at critical points. Archival notes from the period, including those influenced by Viollet Leduc's restoration philosophy, reference not only stability, but also the controlled channeling of electrical charge. That is an odd concern if the spires were mere symbols. The rose window, 13 meters across in the southern transept, dominates the nave with its intricate tracery. This is not just stained glass for storytelling. When subjected to modern frequency analysis, fast Fourier transforms applied to digital scans reveal geometry that echoes the resonant frequencies used in radio guidance and wireless power. The design, a lattice of nested circles and starbursts, carries a mathematical order that aligns with the principles of cymatics, where sound waves shape matter into symmetrical forms. At the tower's peak, the iron mooring point sits directly above the rose window's geometric heart, as if the entire structure served as a vertical interface. Energy drawn from the atmosphere, harmonics tuned by the window, and a docking mast ready for something to anchor overhead. Restoration records from 1845 detail the replacement of copper and ironwork, noting the reuse of conductive materials, a practice that makes sense if these components once served a technical purpose. The cathedral's silhouette, when viewed from above, matches the radial symmetry seen in star forts, reinforcing the idea of a coordinated ground-to-sky system. Every detail, from the diameter of the rose window to the choice of metals, suggests a careful calibration for resonance and connection, not just for faith, but for function. Across the final decades of the 19th century, a new kind of image began to appear in photographic archives. Glass plate negatives dated from 1880 to 1905, catalogued in private collections and early aeronautics journals, captured skies that seemed to ripple with the outlines of elongated cigar-shaped forms. These shapes drift above city skylines, sometimes mistaken for clouds, sometimes drawn with the hard edges of engineered craft. While mainstream historians point to lens artifacts or overzealous retouching, the catalogue references are real. Plates logged in regional archives in Paris, Berlin, and St. Louis, each stamped with dates and photographer marks. By 1900, the first rigid airships, such as LZ-1 Zeppelin, took flight over Lake Constance, their hulls echoing the very silhouettes seen in those earlier sky plates. The resemblance is more than passing. The lineage of these craft, from speculative etchings to the documented Zeppelins, is preserved in the technical journals of the era. Aeronautics Monthly, in its 1901 volume, published a spread comparing the geometry of recent airship designs to earlier unexplained sightings. Engineers debated the plausibility of atmospheric navigation long before the Wright brothers powered flight, referencing both the photographic evidence and the persistent rumors of skyborne vessels. Etchings from the 1896 airship wave in California, paired with authenticated photos of rigid craft by 1905, create a visual bridge, a continuum that connects the supposed star fort terminals and cathedral spires on the ground to a tangible airborne presence above. The archives do not offer a single conclusive plate. Instead, they reveal a persistent motif, the sky populated by forms that defy easy explanation, recorded before the world was ready to admit such things could exist. Lakehurst, New Jersey, 6th of May, 1937. The Hindenburg, pride of German engineering, drifted over the field, its silver hull gleaming in the evening light. Hundreds waited below, as radio announcers described the scene in real time. In less than 40 seconds, a spark ignited the hydrogen within, turning the airship into a fireball. 36 people died. Newsreel teams rushed their footage to editors, Within 48 hours, the explosion played in cinemas from New York to Berlin. The flames frozen on screens and in headlines. Headlines screamed disaster. Editorials warned of the dangers of hydrogen. Safety memos circulated among airlines and government offices, urging a halt to lighter than air travel. The public's fascination with airships curdled into fear almost overnight. Before the Hindenburg, the skies had promised freedom and spectacle. Rigid airships crossed continents, docking at towers and spires, their flights chronicled in society pages. After Lakehurst, every cigar-shaped craft became a symbol of risk. Insurance companies withdrew coverage. Zeppelin flights were grounded. The last scheduled passenger airship, the Graf Zeppelin II, made its final voyage in 1939. The age of atmospheric ships ended not with a technical failure, but with a spectacle broadcast to millions. The Hindenburg disaster became a dividing line, a psychological operation that shifted humanity's gaze from the sky to the ground. The infrastructure remained, star forts, spires, runways of stone, but the sky was closed, and the world's attention was steered elsewhere. The story asks who decided that flight would no longer belong to everyone, and what else was lost when the airships fell silent. Today, we walk beneath steeples and star forts, never questioning their silent design. As official narratives harden, curiosity becomes a quiet act of rebellion. Evidence, architectural, cartographic, and cultural, still waits in plain sight, daring us to look up. History isn't just what is written, it is what we choose to see. What do you see when you look at the sky?